Hello everyone, so welcome back to my channel. So today we will try and answer two important questions, which are what are lipoproteins and what is their function. Okay, so before that, let us see what are lipoproteins. The lipoproteins are basically composed of two components. One is the lipids and the other is proteins. Okay, if you can look at the structure of lipoprotein, so this is the generalized structure of a lipoprotein. Okay, so you can see over here these yellow ones, these are the lipid portion, whereas these surrounding ones, okay, these are the protein portion. Okay, so let's first look at the lipid part. So the lipid part is composed of these phospholipids, which consist of, you can see, the head and the tail part. The head part, as we have seen, is the polar part, whereas the tail part is the non-polar part. Okay, so the phospholipids, they form the surrounding layer. In between you can have free cholesterols. Okay, so the surface consists of phospholipids and free cholesterol of the lipid part. Okay, whereas the inside, the core, which consists of, you can have a cholesterol ester. So the free cholesterol binds with a fatty acid to form a cholesterol ester, or you can have fatty acid binding with glycerol to form a triacyl glycerol. Okay, so the inner core consists of mainly cholesterol esters and triglycerides. Okay, so this is how the lipoproteins, they transport these lipid fractions. Okay. Surrounding the lipoprotein, then you have the protein part, which is the apoprotein. Okay, so the apoprotein consists of a peripheral protein, or you can have also an integral apoprotein. Okay. So this is the generalized structure of lipoprotein, which is made up of the lipid part and the protein part. The protein part is called apoprotein, whereas the lipid part is made up of, mainly on the periphery, is the phospholipids, which are polar, whereas the interior part or the core part is made up of cholesterol esters and triacyl glycerol, which are non-polar. Okay, so this is the generalized structure of a lipoprotein. Now, we all know that lipids are insoluble in water. Okay, for the simple reason, we all know that oil and water does not mix. Okay, so similarly in our body also, the lipid portion is insoluble in water. So that is why they need to form complexes with proteins, and that is how they are carried. So in other words, lipoproteins basically help transport various lipid fractions. Okay, so that is the function of lipoproteins. Now the protein part which is present in the lipoprotein is specifically called apoprotein. Okay, so this is the structure of lipoprotein, and the protein part, this is the apoprotein. Now lipoproteins are classified based on their density and electrophoretic mobility. Okay, so we have classification of lipoprotein. So they are classified based on their density, okay, and their electrophoretic mobility. Okay, so let us see classification. Okay, so they are classified as chylomicrons, VLDL or very low density lipoprotein, intermediate density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, and high density lipoproteins. So these are the five classification how lipoproteins are classified. So chylomicrons, they are the biggest in size. Okay, you can see over here. So based on the size, the chylomicron is the biggest, whereas the HDL or high density lipoprotein is the smallest. Okay, why is that? Because if you look at the high density lipoprotein, it has a major protein fraction. Okay, so it makes it more denser, whereas chylomicron, the protein fraction is very less, okay, around 2%. So that makes it lighter. So chylomicrons are the biggest in size, whereas HDL is the smallest in size. Now if you look at chylomicrons, it contains an apoprotein which is B48. Similarly, VLDL contains the apoprotein which is B100. Okay. Then you have an intermediate density lipoprotein, after which you have is low density lipoprotein, in which the major apoprotein which is present is B100. And finally you have HDL or high density lipoprotein, in which the major apoprotein which is present is apoprotein A1. So we all know that LDL is known as bad cholesterol and HDL is known as good cholesterol. Why is that? That we will see. Then we also have free fatty acids, which are complexed with albumin, and that is how they are carried, but they are not included in this classification. So if you look again at the lipoprotein, if you look at chylomicron, chylomicron mainly is composed of 90% of triglycerides. So chylomicrons, they transport triglycerides. VLDL also has a major portion of triglycerides. So that also transports triglyceride. And if you look at LDL, so LDL, the percentage is mainly of that of cholesterol. So it transports is cholesterol. Whereas HDL, if you look at, so it has again the major lipid fraction is your cholesterol. So that also it transports cholesterol. Okay, so let's quickly look at the function of chylomicrons. Chylomicrons helps in the transport of triglycerides from the intestine, the food which you take, to the peripheral tissues like adipose tissue, muscles, hearts, etc. Okay, so all the dietary fat which we take, that is taken up by chylomicron and distributed to the periphery. Similarly, VLDL is the very low density lipoprotein which also transports the triglyceride, but it is endogenously synthesized. That means it is synthesized by the liver. So it is synthesized by the liver and it is transported to various tissues. Okay, and LDL, it helps in the transport of cholesterol from liver to the periphery. Okay, so LDL is transporting cholesterol from the liver to the periphery where it can be deposited, and that is why it is known as bad cholesterol. Okay, because it is taking cholesterol from the liver and depositing it in the peripheral tissues, especially in the coronary vessels of the heart, so which can lead to obstruction of the coronary vessels and heart attack. Similarly, HDL transports cholesterol from the periphery back to the liver for excretion. So this decreases the total cholesterol levels, and that is why it is called good cholesterol. So to summarize, if you see over here, the fat which is absorbed from the intestine, the triglyceride is taken up by chylomicrons to the periphery, okay, and the triglyceride which is synthesized from the liver is taken by the VLDL to the periphery. Similarly, VLDL forms an intermediate density lipoprotein and ultimately leads to formation of LDL, which takes up cholesterol from the liver and distributes it to the periphery. And the function of HDL is to carry cholesterol from the periphery back to the liver. So these are the basic functions of lipoproteins, and we will discuss this more in detail when we talk about metabolism. So thank you very much. Hope you have understood.